Let's talk about Galaxy 4. If you've seen my channel before, you know I'm a big First Doctor fan, so there's a lot at stake for this animation team. Today I'm going to talk about some of the things I loved and some of the things I didn't love. And ultimately, it's up to you to decide if this is something you want to buy and watch yourself. Galaxy 4 was a really strange choice by the animation team. There are a few reasons why, to my knowledge, they chose it. One, the audio quality is quite good compared to many other Hartnell stories that are missing. Also, there is quite a small cast for this story, and in the animation it's been cut even smaller by making all the Dravens look the same, except for Marga, the leader. Also, the story features a very minimal amount of sets, so it kind of feels like a shoo-in to be chosen for the next Doctor Who story to be animated, purely from a cost perspective. So, what is Galaxy 4 about? The Doctor, Stephen and Vicky land on an unknown planet with no name since the story has no depth. The TARDIS team encounter a crashed ship which is owned by the Dravens, after being attacked by the dreaded and ugly Reals. Unbeknown to them, the planet is soon to be destroyed in an explosion that has no cause. Galaxy 4 isn't really a story that people were dying to be animated. It's a very simple story that doesn't have much to it, but it does have some moments that are really great. One of my favourite William Hartnell lines comes from this story.
My ship's not made of tin like this old trash. Oh, good gracious me. Seems if I coughed too loudly, the whole thing would fall to pieces.
The actor who plays Marga, the leader of the Dravens, does an amazing performance. And thankfully, a surviving episode, episode 3, Airlock, and also a whole minute from episode 1 also survives, where you can really see her shine. And also, who could not love the chumblies, which are incredibly cute and also hold up very well in this animation. This animation was done by the same people who did the Fury from the Deep animation. There were a lot of critiques from the Fury from the Deep animation that came out online, mainly due to the long arms that some of the characters had, and also a lot of the sets were redesigned and reimagined to be a lot bigger than their original counterparts. I personally am quite a big fan of reimagining, but at times it was quite obvious in Fury from the Deep that this long corridor they're walking down was really 2 steps, but it goes for 20 steps in the animation. In this story, the scale of it really exists on the planet itself. The rest of the sets are slightly bigger than the original sets. I think the surface of the planet is beautiful, and those deep oranges are very, very attractive and they look amazing. When I first saw the teaser trailer, I was a bit cautious about it because I thought it looked a bit too bright and too colourful. But in the animation, there is a real good balance between the two, and I think it looks really good. I think the Draven spaceship is interesting. It's really strange. It's one of the first animations where I haven't been a huge fan of the interior sets. I think some of the textures in the Draven ship is a bit too detailed compared to the limited character animation, that they kind of stand out too much. Very much like the early Scooby-Doo animations where there was this beautiful painted oil backdrop, but in these it's clear it's a 3D set that they've pasted painted images over, and I don't think it has that same effect where they gel together very well. But I think it was intentional that the metal was so detailed and rusted because they discussed it in dialogue, so I understand why they did it, but I'm not personally a big fan of how it looks. But overall, the Draven ship is fine. It's not that big of a deal. I can watch it and I think it looks fine. But the real ship is really, really strange. They've changed the exterior to be a lot bigger than the original, which is fine. I have no issue with that. But it's the interiors that they've changed dramatically, and not in a way that I think is very pleasing to the eye. In my opinion, obviously. The original set was quite limited, so I assumed they were going to redesign it, and I'm all for redesigning. I want to make that very clear. These animations, they can do whatever they like. I'm happy with that. But I think the original design, although it was limited and very cheap, looked better than this animated redesign. In the original set, it had sort of a frosted glass, which was probably just cellophane or something, and you could see outside to the planet's surface. And I thought it was a really nice attachment where you really felt like, oh, it's landed there because you could see the planet. But they decided to not do that, and it's all enclosed, and it's this awful cream color with the same texture. It's very clearly like a circuit board plastered over the walls, over the triangle bits. It's everywhere, and it doesn't make any sense. The main room is also just a big box. It's just a big rectangle with this awkward ceiling that's just flat and there's just these random pipes here and it doesn't make any sense. I feel like there's no artistic direction for that room. They just felt like, oh, we wanted a big room, and then they just left it at that. I'm just really surprised they managed to make a 60s Doctor Who set look worse in animation. In my opinion, very clear that. It's just my opinion. I'm sure other people love it. I read somewhere they were inspired by 60s Star Trek and 60s sci-fi films where they had those bright colors. But I'm personally very inspired by 60s Star Trek when it comes to lighting with color. But it's very much that, it's lighting with color. They're still neutral sets, but the lighting is what sells that beautiful color. Whereas these, it's just a bunch of random primary colors put against a cream backdrop. And to me, that didn't give me 60s. It didn't give me that look. They're like, oh yeah, 60s was bright colors, but they didn't do any research into actual set designs from then and how they were lit. Because there's no lighting, there's no shadows in these productions. And it's really strange. And it makes it look cheaper. People think that scale means, oh, that means it's got big budget, it looks amazing, but you need to feel that with detail. Detail is what gives it production value. That's what gives it scale. So maybe the Chumblies don't have any experience in interior design? I don't know, they should check out my Sims builds. Maybe I could have designed a Chumbly ship. I don't know, I'm here. No, but like seriously, I do not want to work for the BBC, full stop. I don't want to work. I'm not here to work. I'm here to just hang out. We'd have a laugh. But I think overall, with the planet's surface, it looks great. I think the Draven ship is fine, really. I'm just being nitpicky. But the real ship is, I hate it. I really hate it. But I can overlook it, it's fine. I posted about Galaxy 4 animation on Twitter, so I'm gonna read a few tweets that some of y'all have said. TARDIS Time 2 said, the reals love to be in a kid's TV show set. Jean-Luc said, circus tent vibes, which would be insulting to circus tents. Suffering Underscore JPEG said, how do they manage to accurately depict a 1x1 community rec center / outdated church carpet texture? Brutal. They found the texture in Google Images. I bet I could probably find some of these textures on Google. Matthew Purchase said, it's probably the only element of the animation I didn't like. The set redesign works better here than Fury from the Deep, but the design just looks illogical and impractical for a spaceship. It reminded me more of a 90s kids game show, which, you know, fair. But I'd like to talk about the character designs. I think Vicky and Steven and the Dravens and Margot were really well executed. The critiques of the long arms are long since gone, but it is very odd that sometimes their heads were a lot smaller than everyone's bodies, but after a few minutes you don't even notice. You really get sold into the animation and it really stands for itself. As a big First Doctor fan, I was quite critical of the William Hartnell movements because I'm such an obsessive. I know how he moves his hands. I know how he moves his body towards the camera and how he interchanges his hands with his lapels and how he moves it. And there was very little of that. There was a bit of the hand movements that he does, but not as much, which was really surprising. I think William Hartnell's likeness is probably the least closest, especially when it comes down to his costume. I understand the textures in that can't be done because it takes a lot longer with animation and stuff, so that's fine. But the shape of the tie is incorrect. Surely that wouldn't have cost any more to get that correct. Also, the waistcoat is sitting far too high. I know how stupid and pedantic this is. And it's true, I'm being pedantic. Overall, it doesn't take away your enjoyment from the production. I still think overall it's still great. But it just comes down to that, like, I understand when costs come involved that shortcuts need to be made. And I'm very reasonable. I understand these are a niche market and not everyone's going to be interested in this. So I understand these budgets are small. But it's the things that don't cost any extra money. It doesn't cost any more to get Bill's tie right. It doesn't cost any more to get the waistcoat to sit correctly. But something I really want to praise is the character movement. I think it's just as fluid as the Evil of the Daleks one, and it's so well executed that you don't even notice it. You don't pay attention to it because it's that smooth. And I think this animation is one of the very few ones that attempt to do front walk cycles, where they're moving forwards whilst facing the camera. Usually most of the walking is on the side because that's easier to animate. So I really praise them for going the extra mile to nail that, because it really had some good shots where it made sense to be front on and walking. And I think it had some really great shots of the Chumblies in close up and stuff, and they didn't have to go out of their way to make these extra shots, but they did. And I think it really added to this production. Also, let me know if I'm crazy, but is it just me or are the reels like kind of cute? Not in like an attractive way, I meant like cute like a dog or like a pet or something. I don't want to sleep with a reel if that's what we're asking. Or do I? No, I don't. I really don't. Please don't make that a thing. In response to saying that I think the reels are cute, people have said, Deborah said, they're nice boys. Ultra spooky generic Doctor Who fan said, what a polite man. And this truly cursed tweet from Jude said, don't the reels canonically smell like piss? And of course I said, I don't need TARDIS Wiki to tell me if they smell like piss or not, they just do. I found it very interesting that they decided to hand draw the chumblies, their movement and all of that, rather than do a 3D model like they do with the Daleks on the BBC Studios team for Evil and Power. And I really applaud them for going that extra mile to make it all 2D, so it really matches the production, and I think it has that nice little added element to it. For Galaxy 4, there's also a handful of 8mm home recorded recordings of the original broadcast, done by an unknown Australian fan. No, it was not me because I was definitely not alive in the 1960s. And in some of these clips, you can see how some of the camera movements worked. And in the opening shot, it was kind of a crane jib shot where they had a look down at the TARDIS console and then they moved forward onto Bill on the TARDIS console and Stephen and Vicky in the background. But in this animation, they didn't do that shot and they just shot it front on. We hear that this team is very much like, oh, we're really big on honoring the original audio. We're not going to cut any of it. Every single second you're going to hear, it's going to be 100% accurate. But when it comes to the animated visuals, none of that matters. Which I find really strange because the whole point of these animations is to add a visual element to the original audio. If you want to preserve the original audio so much, buy the CD or even the vinyl. And I had the same critique in Fury from the Deep, where you had the TARDIS coming down and spinning onto the ocean and landing. And in the Fury from the Deep animation, it was just like a 2D PNG just flying down. And it did not have the same impact. And it looked so much more cheaper. And it really took me out of it because I know what that shot looks like. Is it a deal breaker? No. You know, all of these things that I'm critiquing, they just is how I personally feel. I'm not saying that this animation is bad. I'm saying overall, I really enjoyed it. Even though the story is really not for me. I find it quite boring and very slow and not much really happens in my opinion. But I think it's a worthy purchase if missing episodes is something that interests you. If you enjoy the previous animations, you'll enjoy this one. I think it's a step up from Fury from the Deep, but I also enjoyed Fury from the Deep more than others. So have you seen the animation yet? Is this something that you're wanting to buy or are you thinking about skipping this one? Let me know in the comments below. Sorry for the terrible background setup today. I really just wanted to film today. I didn't want to spend 2 hours setting up, so I did this in 30 minutes and it looks like it. So I apologize. Please don't hate me. I hold myself to a really high standard on this channel. And I really hate the fact that I'm critiquing a production whilst my production values are this. So I do not have a leg to stand on. I really don't. Sorry, I barely upload, but I find it very daunting. I am very thankful that you all stick around and watch my stuff. I'm trying to only make things when it inspires me, so I can be very passionate about it. So I'm not coming out here and lying to you. That's something I have no interest in doing. For me, this is a hobby, not a career. I'm really enjoying the new series of Doctor Who, something I thought I would never say. I can't believe I'm enjoying something Chris Chibnall is writing. It's really insane. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Doctor Who's really fun at the moment. It's a good time to be a fan. Everyone's feeling really positive and I'm really happy to be a part of this community. And I'm so thankful that you guys stick around and listen to what I have to say. But yeah, don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Josh Nares YouTube channel. No one does that anymore, but you know, I'm 27 years old. I'm allowed to be cringe. Bye. Oh my God, I'm too old to be sitting down on an uncomfortable stool. Oh.